Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, hope you're doing well. So today is Thursday, the 3rd of July 2025, and it's only a few days before the 2025 Gold Coast Marathon, and I can't believe it's taken this long for me to finish the series. It is what it is, and I'm here now, so yeah, let's get right into the recap of week 18, which is race week of my 2024 Gold Coast Marathon training. So Monday was a 10km recovery run, just around Riverwood. It was a fairly chill effort, and it's basically the classic road loop that I go for when I don't feel like running in the wet grass on Bankstown City Sports Complex. Tuesday was an 11km aerobic run, again around Riverwood, a fairly chill effort as well. Wednesday was a dress rehearsal, which includes wearing race gear and also doing a bit of gold marathon effort. It was about 13k in total, with about 3 km at gold marathon pace in the middle. Again, I did around Riverwood because why not? The calf strain was still there, so the run didn't feel too smooth, but at the same time, the injury wasn't getting worse, so I guess it's alright. Thursday was a 10km recovery run, which was basically the same effort and loop as Monday's recovery run. Went fairly smoothly, I guess. Friday was an 8km recovery with some strides, again at Riverwood, which now makes it 5 days of running at Riverwood in a row. It's honestly the nicest running area that I can find within like a short running distance from my place. Anyways, the strides felt pretty decent somehow, and it didn't even aggravate my calf strain at all, even though it took a tiny bit more effort than usual. And then later afternoon on Friday as well, I flew over to Gold Coast. It's a fairly short flight actually, I think it takes about an hour and a half directly there. By the time I arrived at Gold Coast Airport though, it was raining fairly heavily, which wasn't a great sign for race day, especially for those racing on Saturday, which includes events like the 10k and also the half marathon. But since the marathon was on Sunday, there's still a chance that it will be fine, or maybe not. Later that evening, I visited the race expo at Broadbeach. I checked out all the booths and stuff. It was fairly interesting, but at the same time, honestly didn't really buy anything because I didn't really need anything either. So yeah, I was mostly just there to pick up my bib. But here's some extra clips from the expo, I guess. Kind of random, but I did notice my stress levels on Garmin was a bit higher than usual. I think I had a bit of hay fever or allergies or something, which I think might have been from the windy conditions or just like the weather change in general. Anyways, the next day on Saturday, I did a little shakeout run. I basically ran from where I stayed in Broadbeach all the way to Southport to where the race precinct was for the Saturday events. It was about 7 kilometers to get there, and I met Apollo around halfway at Surfers Paradise, and we jogged the rest of the way together. We checked out the race precinct booths, stayed around for a bit for the announcements of the half marathon finishers, and even checked out the start of the 2k junior dash and also the 10k race, I guess. It was quite nice to have a look around, and I think the weather did clear up a bit by late morning, which is a great sign for Sunday, I guess. And then finally it was Sunday, which was race day. I tried sleeping fairly early on Saturday night. I didn't get much quality sleep or much sleep at all. So anyways, I got up fairly early, I think at around 4 AM, like to smash up my usual bowl of overnight oats at around 4:20 AM. Still a bit of hay fever and allergies, but fortunately it wasn't as bad as the day before. And then I got ready, laced up my shoes and got out. By the time I reached the starting funnel area, it was 5:50 AM, so I still had at least 20 minutes to warm up. Although I might have gotten a bit distracted because soon it was almost race time and I haven't even properly warmed up yet. And I was also now caught up in all the crowds. I think I was around 200 meters behind the actual start line, maybe 50 meters behind the 3-hour paces. Anyways, it's now 6:15 AM and the race starts. Given how crowded it was and that I wasn't feeling in top shape, I figured I might as well just take it chill at the start and like ease into it. I really wasn't sure what pace I was going to go for. I think in my mind I was going to aim for anything between like a 2:40 to 2:50 finish time, which was a fairly wide range. But realistically, I was just going to like see how I feel throughout the race and adjust as I go, especially based on how the calf holds up. So I just settled for a solid effort for the first few kilometers, at least until the crowd settles a bit and the course opens up a bit more. At the first drink station, I think at around 2.5 kilometers in, I saw a bunch of mini water bottles, which was a huge relief. I honestly thought to myself, okay, this race is basically gonna go fairly well now, because by this point I haven't really practiced drinking water from the cups well enough. However, I've gotten fairly used to like drinking from a mini soft flask, doing like training and long runs and stuff. So having those mini water bottles was close enough to a soft flask and was literally a confidence booster for me. So throughout the entire race, I ended up just relying on those mini water bottles at every 5-kilometer water station afterwards. Didn't need to even stop for cups. However, those mini water bottles were quite limited. There was maybe like 50 to 100 per table per water drink station as well, and were sometimes placed at the end of the water station, so a lot of people would have missed it. But I managed to always have a bottle on hand for the entire race. I was also monitoring my heart rate every now and then, and it seemed to be hovering around 167 to 173 beats per minute, which was a bit high for my standards, at least for marathon effort, but nothing too crazy as well, since I know I've already done a marathon at around 170 to 172 BPM before, so I just tend to remind myself that, you know, like race day adrenaline might add a few more BPMs to my usual heart rate, but nothing to panic about just yet. I think somewhere around Broadbeach, or like around the 12-kilometer mark, I felt something odd on the inside of my left ankle. It's like a rock or a stick got stuck in my socks or something. At the time, I didn't really know what it was, so I just ignored it, but only after the race did I discover that I had a blister there, like to the point where I was actually bleeding, which is kind of odd because I didn't feel this discomfort in the few occasions I've tested the sock endorphin leads. in training, but it's also not too surprising given like the rough materials and also the lack of padding around that area of the shoe. But fortunately, it didn't really impact the performance of the race for me too much. I felt something there for the rest of the race, and it did actually get a tiny bit worse as the race progressed, but it still wasn't as bad or distracting as like getting numb toes later in the race, I guess, at the 30k mark. I remember at the main turnaround at 18 kilometers, which was at Miami, I could feel some headwind and even feel the sun. It was almost 7:30 am at this point, and I think it was no longer cool and chill anymore. It was a bit windy as well. However, I was still feeling fairly fresh into the race at this point, so it wasn't too much of a problem. Because I started kind of far back, I never actually caught up to the 245 group. I think I could always see them in the distance, maybe 200 to 300 meters away for the majority of the race, but there wasn't really a chance I could catch up to them. I could tell the 250 group was not too far behind as well, so I was usually with a few other people similar to myself who was sort of caught in an awkward in-between group. But at the same time, I really didn't mind. I was still running my own race and still enjoying myself. It's been so long now since the race happened, and I don't remember too much of what happened between 18 to 30 kilometers, but I think it just went smoothly enough. I just remember that it got gradually warmer as time went by as well. When I say warm, I don't mean like 2023 Sydney Marathon warm, like 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, but rather peaking at like around 15 to 20 degrees, I guess, with a bit of humidity as well, and lots of exposed sun since the race was along the coast. Relative to how most of us would have trained through the chilly autumn and winter, 15 degrees Celsius would have felt kind of warm for us. So for most of this race, I just try to keep it sensible and also like stay hydrated throughout, always holding a water bottle even to the finish line, I guess. I forgot to mention this, but the course is fast and flat with not too many turns as well. It's pretty much all on paved roads, with most sections on main roads and even some sections on the back roads surrounded by some houses and buildings, which provided some shade and also blocked a bunch of like crosswinds, I guess. But those sections are still fairly short anyway, and there was like 40 meters of elevation gain across the entire race, the entire 42 kilometers, so quite flat as you imagine. In terms of fueling, I tried to keep it simple and like took a gel every 5 kilometers, and it was basically goo gel, and I take a small sip of water after each gel as well, which seemed to do the job, and I didn't get any stomach issues. I only carried 6 gels with me, and I think I had 1 extra right before the race, which looking back now, especially since it's been a year later now, and I tried a bunch of different fueling methods such as like bigger gels, drink mix, and so on, I probably didn't feel well enough. But the massive overnight oats bowl kind of helped, I guess, and also being able to grab like 2 extra fixed gels at the 30 kilometer aid station, which is the only aid station along the whole course with like some free gels, I guess. Anyways, back to the race. By the time I reached the 30 kilometer mark, which was around Southport, I really was expecting to get cramps or something, since I've been mostly going by feel at this point, and I wasn't really sure if I was keeping the effort as controlled as I should have. But no, instead I just got like the classic numb toes, which is what I used to get all throughout training, especially doing the wrong ones. So I wasn't too surprised by it, especially since I'm quite used to it by now, but it was enough to slow me down a bit, although fortunately I didn't hit the wall or anything at this point. It was also a nice surprise to see Mark on the other side of the road providing some cheer and support, and we'll also see him again after the race as well. But yeah, I was still feeling fairly decent up until around 37 kilometers, which is the final major turnaround before we head straight to the finish, like the last 5Ks. That's when I realized from around the 32 to 37 kilometer mark that it's been fairly chill for me because we've been getting some decent tailwind. Because from 37 kilometer onwards, there was like a bunch of headwind, like massive headwinds. It was kind of tricky because I still had energy at this point, but I also knew if I sped up for the last 5 kilometers into the headwind, I might actually cramp or hit the wall for real. I still wasn't running in a group at this point. I was still, like I said, caught between like the 245 and 250 groups, with maybe a few other people around me in a similar awkward position. But even then, we really weren't grouped up in this headwind, which is like all kind of strung apart. The last thing I wanted is to hit the wall and get a cramp here. Plus, I only had like 1 gel left, one of the fixes that I grabbed from the 30 kilometer aid station. I've already used up the rest of my gels, though I still had a mini water bottle in my hand, so I knew that I could finish the rest of the race if I just chilled for a bit. So I basically just held the effort mostly and just even slowed down a bit, and then cruised into the finish with a final time of 2 hours 48 minutes and 5 seconds. It was such a relief to finish well enough, I think, given how I felt early that morning, and I was also quite surprised at how my calf held up as well for most of the race. I was a bit disappointed to still have gotten like numb toes at the 30 kilometer mark, you know, which of course disappeared as soon as I finished the race, but at least it wasn't cramped, and I really couldn't have asked for much more that day. I also hung around a fair bit after the race to meet so many familiar faces. The Gold Coast Marathon was definitely a fun experience with like a fast, flat course and like great views along the coast, plus incredible crowd support along the way. It's always great to see so many people out there celebrating the hard work and dedication they put into training and getting it done. I think my training for it was solid for the most part, as I wanted to try the 18-week, 85-mile Pfitz program for once, which went fairly well, even though I did pick up an injury doing taper. Look back now, there's a few things I would have done differently, such as like taking a rest day on Mondays instead of like doing a recovery run, keeping up with my strength training and like recovery a bit more, and probably less mileage in general. Anyways, I won't be going back for the Gold Coast Marathon this year. I had a think about it earlier this year, but I just didn't commit to it. So maybe I'll come back to it sometime later on. But for now, I'm just focusing on the upcoming Sydney Marathon instead, and hopefully I'll see some of you guys there. If you're racing the Gold Coast Marathon this Sunday, I just want to say good luck and have fun out there. It's been such a journey. I've learned a lot from the training and the race itself, and I also enjoyed sharing my experiences with you guys throughout the whole series, which I really hope has been helpful and enjoyable in some kind of way. I know it's been super delayed, but it is what it is, and I'm just really glad to have finally gotten it done. With that said, as usual, thanks for watching and have a nice day. Bye.